So I think everybody wants to see the Hulk go toe-to-toe with Wolverine. Now, while I do think that's inevitable in the MCU, there seems to be a shift into how one of the actors involved is presenting it now, talking about a possible team-up. So let's talk about what some people suspect is them teasing the team-up and the fight against each other. So while it's pretty much, I think, inevitable that these two characters meet, previously when Mark Ruffalo, aka the Hulk himself, would talk about the two characters meeting, he would constantly say he wants to see the characters, duke it out, it's a fight, and I think that's kind of what you have to sell it at. There have been plenty of interviews recently and articles and just things going around in relation to Mark Ruffalo talking about various aspects of his character. And of course, the Wolverine thing gets brought up and he's always willing to talk about it. And this time he talks about it, but he doesn't talk about it in the way that he has previously. He said that he would love to see a team-up movie of these two characters, not fighting each other, but teaming up. And as some of you have pointed out, it is rather interesting that he changed his tone on this. Where previously he was saying he would love to see them go toe-to-toe because of the first appearance and all that, which obviously has something to it. Now he's saying, well, how about a team-up? Would people want the team-up? And he knows people are going to talk about it. And again, as I've said before, as I'll keep saying, they are testing the waters for what people want. Marvel Studios does this. Kevin Feige said they do this. Info gets out there, things get out there, they put things out there, and then they gauge what the response is. Responses like this one, responses on social media, responses on podcasts. They keep up with these things because it's their most hardcore fans and they're listening to what they're saying. So again, there's something to be said about this shift in tone, if you will, and the way he's saying it and the way they're coming to it. And, I'm not saying necessarily that these two can't, go toe-to-toe. That's definitely not it. I mean, BVS, right? That movie was pitched on, they fight each other, who's gonna win? We know it wasn't about that. The trailers even reveal, Doomsday. You know exactly the way it's gonna go. You can't have Hulk versus Wolverine as the entire thing because one of them then looks weak, one of them has to get defeated, and one has to be played off as a pure villain. That's not how it works in these versus things. And if you look at the history of the versus properties in Hollywood and even comic books, and even if you look at Marvel vs. DC comics that they've done or other crossovers between media and franchises like RoboCop, Terminator, all that type of stuff, there's never really a defined victory unless they're trying to set up something down the road like a rematch. It's like pro wrestling. They're like, who's going to win this match? It's highly anticipated. Then it goes one way. Then a couple months they'll do a sequel. Then they're like, okay, well, we're going to end this rivalry forever in a third one, right? Again, it's that type of thing. You could play up the two meet each other. They butt heads. They fight each other like they have in the comics and the animated film. And one of them wins in a, weird way. And then somewhere down the road, you have another rematch with them. But again, the position we're in with these characters right now, the Hulk, the way he's presented, he doesn't lend himself towards a mindless beast. Wolverine, I'm assuming he's going to be played off a little bit younger, maybe somebody in his mid-20s, maybe 35, but I would say probably not older than that for an actor, right? Because they're going to want to keep him semi-young so they can have an actor that lasts another 20, 30 years like Hugh Jackman. So again, you're going to want to remember you need an actor that's going to stay around for a while. The Hulk, you have already had him, and the Hulk is not one that can sustain solo films that they don't even have the rights to. So Wolverine's got to go on, and he's got to carry a franchise. So the two do have to butt heads, but the Hulk, again, he's not a raging monster anymore. He's somebody that's logical. He's thinking. He's not just this crazy, unhinged beast, which Wolverine can maybe. The plot of the movie can be that he unleashes that beast from the Hulk again because he wants to see how tough the Hulk is. And again, that kind of gives Hulk a character arc and a story to go over and a reason for him and Wolverine to meet. But then again, you have to think of everything going in a direction where the plot, the villain, everything has to service what's happening in that movie. And again, it can't be a throwaway, and you can't make one of these guys look weaker. So Mark Ruffalo talking about the aspect that he wants a team up, I think is indicative of the fact that they're looking at possibilities of what to do with these characters, what to do with the Hulk. Because as we know, the Hulk, he has a future in the MCU, that's guaranteed, and he's a CG character, but his future is largely a big question mark for, where he's gonna go. How long does he stay around? Are they gonna kill him off? I mean, Mark Ruffalo has teased, well, the Hulk's gonna be around for a while, maybe as a mentor figure to some of the younger heroes coming in the next generation. So, okay, let's say hypothetically he's at the Avengers campus or wherever he's gonna be mentoring younger generations. Eventually they're gonna cross paths with the X-Men. We know that's gonna be a big deal. Wolverine, probably not an X-Men to start, I would hope, but eventually he's gonna cross over with them and everybody, so the two gotta meet, and people will want to see that aspect of it. Now again, we've seen in the likes of Age of Ultron, for example, the Hulk can be manipulated. You can mess with his mind. So, I don't know how they could do this, but you have to have a reason for these two to fight each other. So if the reason is somebody's messing with his mind, you have somebody that can do, mind manipulation. Maybe Emma Frost, for example. Maybe she ends up being a central villain, her and the Hellfire Club of the first Wolverine film. And you bring in Hulk in there, and then she manipulates him, and the two have to fight each other in the first or second act of the movie before one of them inevitably gets slightly edges the other one out, probably Wolverine, because it's his movie. Then you kind of build up this rivalry, but the friendship, sort of like they did in Thor Ragnarok between Hulk and Thor. It's like, oh, who won? Well, we know who won, but, they play it off for comedy and a, one-upsmanship. You kind of have to do that. So again, there's a lot in this that has to be approached carefully, and it has to be approached from a standpoint of, we don't just want to put it out there and make it a kind of pointless thing, right? And if you look at Marvel Studios, Civil War again, they weren't originally going to do Civil War, but then Batman v Superman was announced, and they're like, well, I guess we have to compete now, so we got to kind of do like an Avengers style film, toss in all the characters into this one film. And it worked. They obliterated BVS. Again, you can't just do that to this movie for no reason, because it wouldn't make sense. So you would have to find a reason for these two characters to cross paths. You don't just want to toss them in randomly, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. And again, you have to approach it from a standpoint of, this will sell merchandise, this will shift comics, because of course they're going to have Hulk versus Wolverine comics, to tie in, and who knows what else. But the reality of it is, I think the tonal shift is, they want it. They know this is coming. They talk about it enough. They tease it enough. Mark Ruffalo teased it enough. Kevin Feige's mentioned it, the possibility of this happening. And I think, they're just going to keep doing this. And they're going to keep doing it because there's reasons to do it, because they're building up anticipation. Because when they announce it, and, let's go next year, San Diego Comic-Con, let's say, if it ends up happening. Or next year's D23. Kevin Feige walks out on stage and there's a bunch of 2023 movies that he's ready to announce. And he pops up a Hulk logo. And we're like, wait, what? Hulk? And he's like, yeah, we'll get back to that in a second. Kind of like they did with Serpent Society. And then he announces an X-Men movie down the road. We're all like, oh my god, we're getting an X-Men movie. Then he's like, now remember how we talked about the Hulk? Yeah, check this out. And then the logo gets upgraded because the Wolverine logo pops in, and it's the Wolverine versus the Hulk, right? Like Clash of Titans, or I don't know what tell you. Don't call it Clash of Titans. I think that was that terrible Sam Worthington movie. Anyways, you get what I'm saying, right? It's about hype, anticipation. You don't just want to toss into a random movie just because you can, and you want to build it up. So this is something that they have to build up with anticipation. And anticipation is exactly what this movie is about, because it's not just about, oh look, the Hulk's gonna fight Wolverine. It's about that discussion having been part of pop culture for the better part of 50 plus years. You don't want to throw that away. You're gonna have one chance to do this right, to do that fight right. You know who didn't do that fight right? Batman versus Superman. They had one chance to do that story, one chance to do Death of Superman, one chance to do the suit and the iconic lines from Frank Miller's, like definitive Batman comic, and they missed that opportunity, and nobody talks about it. You can't do that to this match. Just like you can't mess up the Fantastic Four when they come to the MCU, they have to be careful with these. So rushing it out for no reason, there's no logic behind that. So they're going to take their time, they're going to slowly build it up, and it will happen. And I think that's what they're telling us. That's what Mark Ruffalo keeps talking about. It's going to be a team-up movie, but we'll get that fight.